Hearties. I'm Jeanette from Michigan, and I'm joined today by a few friends.
Well, I'm Dawn from North Carolina.
And we're super excited. We've had a really exciting day today, the Hearties family reunion, opportunity drawing open. And tonight we get to talk about our episode from last night. We do have a couple guests today. We're welcoming in today a Heartie from the Midwest. We want to welcome Emily Foster. Hey, Emily.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Emily.
We're so glad to have you. And of course, we're back with we like to color our Heartie in the writer's room. Allie Devereaux, welcome back to Heart to Hearties. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I am. I put my Heartie hat on. I say that in the room and I'm like, okay, guys, I'm putting my Heartie hat on. So I'm putting my Heartie hat on for today.
Well, we always appreciate it for sure. So you wrote last night's episode, Truth Be Told was the name of it. And this one was directed by Siobhan Devine. So we're excited to see her back. It was a doozy, we'll say that. We had a lot of great moments with the children that were a lot of fun, and as well as some emotional ones. There was some moments that were hard to watch, I think, for the Hearties too. So what was your reaction when you started to get the dailies in on this episode? How did it make you feel as the writer of the episode?
I mean, I loved every shot of this episode, like everything. Like Siobhan did a beautiful job with the visuals. Like there was some really interesting camera angles of like just cuts between characters, which was so important because it was really emotional. And really, yeah, just seeing the emotion brought from our whole cast, but specifically Jaeda, Andrea, and Kevin last night. It was really impactful. I cried watching the dailies, and I cried watching the cuts, and I cried watching the episodes. So yeah, I just felt really honored actually to be trusted with this story, and watching it kind of come to life was a highlight for sure of me on the show.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and her performance, she knocked it out of the park. So we actually brought Emily on today because she's a teacher, and there were so many great scenes last night with the Hope Valley kids and Elizabeth as a teacher. And so Emily, tell us a little bit about what age do you teach there?
Yeah, I'm a special education teacher and I have kindergarten and first graders, so it's a busy bunch of kids. But I've always loved the scenes in the classroom and seeing Mrs. Thornton with her students. So
Yeah, so you can relate to. Luckily for you, you probably don't do the one-room schoolhouse situation, right?
yeah,
A little more narrowed down on the ages there.
just a little bit.
So, yeah, so we wanted to have you on because you're a teacher and you have a heart for kids and you can relate to those teacher kind of moments. What was your biggest takeaway from last night's episode?
Yeah, like you kind of alluded to, we had been hearing for a long time, even before the season began, that Jaeda had a really big storyline with Allie, and she really hit it out of the park. I know it was a performance that really resonated with people, and I definitely enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think we're all still absorbing that performance from Jaeda for sure. And so much to come, obviously, because that story is far from over.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's
We left on a little cliffhanger actually there
yeah,
on,
you did.
yeah.
Yeah, we're all kind of left going, oh boy, where's this going? So we wanted to dive into the episode itself. The show started off with that we love the scenes at the laundry line behind the row houses with the girl talk. It was a lot of fun to hear them. And Elizabeth talked about taking the time to get things right with Nathan. We sort of felt like that was a little bit of was that intentional for the Hearties to remind us about this slow burn that Aaron Crago keeps talking about to be patient?
Yeah, I think it's a reminder for everyone. But we did see like a beautiful dance in the last episode with Elizabeth and Nathan. So in episode 8, I'm talking about. But in that little moment, we just kind of wanted to note that, this is a story there's going to be a lot to savor. So, it's going slow so that we can have some of these really deep moments, just some tinier moments instead of just rushing through all the big stuff. So yeah, it was intentional for sure.
Yeah. And I caught that line that you wrote in there about, I think Rosie actually called Nathan the perfect man. Nathan fans everywhere were like, thank you for catching up with us. That's what we were saying.
Rosemary's a very supportive friend, so she's there just, hyping her her friends up.
Yeah, so true. We did have a couple Hearties that reached out on this one, and this was common. This wasn't just these Hearties, but Laura Wetzel of Atlanta and Sherry Anderson of Loveland, Colorado. She wants to know, are we ever going to get that picnic or the ride or any kind of date we can look for?
I mean, I wish we could have seen it in last night's episode, but it was too jam-packed. So, all I can say for what scene and when is that there are a lot of great moments coming up. So I hope everyone will feel it's been worth the wait. I felt that way watching the dailies in the cut, so I hope you guys feel that way too. The season's not done yet.
Yes.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So with Nathan and Elizabeth, it was fun last night seeing the parallels of the two parenting stories. We saw Elizabeth wrestling with whether little Jack was ready to do his writing lessons, and Nathan was wrestling with how to respond to Allie's increased desire to know her father. So could you talk to us about the parallel tracks that they're on, even though their kids are at two very different stages of life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, like from the beginning, something that's always bonded Nathan and Elizabeth is that they're both single parents. So it's a huge part of their lives and what we're seeing. And yeah, Allie and little Jack are in two different life stages, but like there's still some universal parenting moments, which is what we kind of got to explore last night, which is really fun, which is, deciding when a child's ready to handle something big. And depending on the life stage, the something big might be different. But they're still, trying to adjust with deciding how to keep their kids safe, but also letting them grow.
Yeah, part of little Jack's growth, we got to see him with the horseback riding, and I have been known to watch a good Heartland or All Creatures Great and Small episode. I'm a big fan of those horse scenes. And Jack Wagner was perfect in the scene telling Elizabeth about his surprise for little Jack. He played that awkwardness of just showing up at her row house so well. So you must have really enjoyed seeing Pal the pony come to life in all his furry cuteness.
Totally. Yes. This story was quite a while in the making, actually. We first started talking about getting little Jack on horseback in season 10 even. So I was really excited that we got to bring it to life this season and particularly in this episode because it meant I got to write and name the pony. So Pal the pony, I think he's one of my favorite guest stars, probably for sure. I I remember when they were filming, Erin texted me a photo because I had actually wrapped by that time and was working on something else. But like, it took everything in me not to just like drop all the other responsibilities and just drive to Jamestown to meet him because I was like, he's so cute. He's like the cutest little pony and the perfect pony to play Pal, I think.
Yes,
So many
definitely.
good horse moments there. And I loved the seeing little Jack with Sergeant because it has been a while since we've seen much of Sergeant. So that was fun too to have that little callback.
Him giving him his little treat. I love little bonding moments too because, like we've seen Elizabeth say one day Sergeant will be Jack's horse. So
he's a natural just like his dad. We love him.
Yes.
So Judy Glenn of Baltimore wonders if you know whether or not Hyland had writing lessons for this on-screen moment.
Well, we did do obviously some stunt lessons with like our horse wrangler and stunt coordinator, but actually we found out at the beginning of season 11 that Hyland had already started riding lessons outside of the show. So it was kind of just perfect timing all around. He was already comfortable on a horse, but it was, so just there was some film safety stuff, of course, but he had already actually started. He was ahead of us, ahead of the story.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we had plenty of precious moments with the Hope Valley kids yesterday. So pivoting a little bit to another storyline, it just made me smile when I heard Faith talking to Lily outside the cafe and saying, first, eat your fruit, then we can go play. That's definitely a phrase I'm using every day, multiple times a day in the classroom. First this, then this. So that was fun to see played out. Faith has had such a steep learning curve this season as she's a new caregiver, and we can't bear to think of Lily not being part of her life. So can you tell us about the origin of the perfect Hope Valley day that Joseph suggested?
So Lily and Faith, really their growing relationship has been one of my favorite storylines of season 11. Just it's delicate, but it feels so needed. We all saw the moment of Faith and mini at the beginning of the season when they're talking about loneliness, and it feels like a build. This whole story feels like a build from that. And so Lily's coming at the perfect time for Faith. So then how does she grapple with saying goodbye, to somebody else she cares for? So honestly, I think we just felt that both Lily and Faith could use the perfect day, as well as all of us watching it. So then what does the perfect day in Hope Valley look like? And how can we just have some of those really light, beautiful moments that they can share as well? So of course it was some salon day, and let's throw May and Robert in there too, just to bring some lightness into something that's, emotional.
Yeah, I'm sure we could all use that. Perfect day
I
in
saw-
Hope Valley.
I saw somebody tweet. Did you see the tweet last night where someone said, "Wait a minute, you're telling me every day in Hope Valley isn't the best Hope Valley day ever?" I thought that was so
That's
great.
funny.
Yeah,
Kudos for that one. That
I
was good.
know.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all definitely pulling for some compromise so that Faith and Lily can stay together, or at least be in each other's lives. So especially after Lily declared, "I love you, Auntie Faith." So should we, like Faith, have faith that Dora will allow a shared arrangement for Lily?
I can't say too much about what exactly to expect, but I can say that by this time next week, you'll have your answer.
There you go.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting dynamic because it's like Faith is so aware of the situation, and then of course little Lily really doesn't quite grasp what's happening yet. So it's so sweet to see them kind of balance that, how she balances that as a caregiver.
Yeah. And Andrea and Chloe just play it so well. Like all their scenes, again, there's just like this gentleness there, and I just love it so much because we see Faith, but we see her a lot of times in her work, and when she's as a doctor, she's taking the emotion out because she has to. So just getting to see her like fully embrace all these emotions, it's just really it's a beautiful story, I think.
Mhm.
Well, we're gonna turn a corner with Lucas. Lucas is he's had a lot in his plate, and some things are not working well for them, especially for his grand vision. But so a lot of conundrum for him because he already, promised to create jobs, so protect the towns. He has a lot of, personal onus about Hope Valley, but then you have to deal with Edwin. Edwin is just making sure that he's undermining Lucas the whole time, and Montague, they say, oh, he's going to be in Hope Valley. Who? Why would even think that that's a good thing to do? Really interesting. So, but even Edwin put the brakes on when Montague has that majority owner in the contract. So, but Lucas accepted it. So why would Lucas acquiesce to that particular scenario?
I think what we're seeing is that Lucas, he feels really strongly about protecting the town. Last year, we saw like a big threat to Hope Valley, probably a bigger threat than we had seen in the past. And so Lucas feels strongly to protect, but he's facing hurdle after hurdle. I think when I was on this podcast after episode 3, we talked a little bit about how Lucas has faced so much. And I think, again, there's this desire for protection, but also there's some uncertainty of Lucas's own safety. And I think that's playing into the emotions as well. Like we're seeing he wants to protect Hope Valley, but he feels that protection and being able to protect is being pulled away from him. And he's already felt that for his own safety because, he was shot and now there's questions about it. And so I think it's just what we're seeing is like Lucas just really holding on, trying to protect what he knows and loves and the life he knows and loves. And that's where those big emotions are coming from with him.
Yeah. It's a lot to kind of deal with. And we talked about it, I think the last time I was with you, talked about everything he's been dealing with between the recovery, you get shot. There's just so much, weighing on him. So it's interesting how he has evolved throughout these episodes. But again, Lucas and Montague shake on the contract, the potential deal. Nancy Ross of New Jersey thinks Jeanette is spying on them, because we had a scene that there was someone, doing the binoculars. So I love that scene too. That was interesting as they were, filming that. I think that was a good one. But who do you think? I know you're not gonna be
like she's just gonna tell us.
I was gonna say, who really is it? Someone that we know?
Interesting.
I can say it's someone that we've seen. I
Oh.
won't say when you've seen them, just that you've seen them.
Season 1. No.
Can't say when, can't say who, but I can say it's somebody. I can't say how long you've seen them, how long it's been, how long you saw them for, but just somebody we've seen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the binocular thing, you know how when you're tweeting and watching, you miss things, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
someone tweeted, who was watching it? I was like, wait, what did I miss? I completely missed the binocular scene. And then when I rewatch, I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It was a cool point of view shot too. Like we
It
don't always
was.
get to
Yeah.
see those point of views. So it just put us, I mean, all of a sudden we're watching Lucas as, this suspicious person, and we're like, ooh, whose eyes are we sitting in at this moment?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of came out of nowhere.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, but that person is in town. Like,
Right.
it's not like Hope Valley is a lot of people, so you would know if there is, some suspicious whatever. So that to me was kind of interesting.
And it's also, who are they watching? Are they watching Lucas
Yes.
or are they watching Montague?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lucas has this gut instinct about Montague. So he thinks that he's not involved in the shooting. And then at the end of the episode, or before the conclusion, Montague gets a beating. I mean, he was assaulted. So first of all, who decided about that twist in the writer's room?
Yeah, we were talking, I believe that pitch came from Paul Redford. I believe it was
Really?
a Paul of saying, could we go that far with seeing it? We did want, we had all talked about, putting Montague in a threatening position, putting him under threat, and how would we do that? And could we get as far as somebody actually, being violent against him? And it was just one of those moments that we're like, the stakes are high, and we want it to be clear that the stakes are high, so we're gonna go there. So that's where that story came from, just to kind of say, there's a few episodes left of this season, and things are escalating. So yeah, this is just the beginning.
Wow. Well, even Bill said that, after that beating, he's like, no, Montague's not part of the scenario. But Rosemary and Bill had carefully compiled the Montague that he was behind Pike's payoff. So can you talk about that?
Rosemary and Bill are a great team. I can say that they're really good. They're collecting lots of evidence, they're on the case, and they have lots of pieces right now. And it might not be totally clear how all the pieces fit together, but all the pieces they have are important, and it will be explained.
Oh,
Trust
so
them.
I was going to say, so the board is going to be updated, maybe?
The crime
There
board?
will be a nice discussion where we kind of get all the pieces coming together. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting. That's a whole thing that this whole season, really intriguing, this whole idea of who shot Lucas. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's not really a laugh kind of thing, but it's just been a good story. Good story.
Yeah, I think
It's a-
every Hardy we
it's a
chat
mystery.
with love it. Like the
Yeah.
intrigue piece. It's something new and fresh. So yeah.
Right.
Well, it kind of allows, like, so many Hearties. I'm also guilty of this. We watch the show and we keep track of all these little pieces. And right now, the pieces that are given are the pieces of a puzzle we're solving together. And that's been really fun, is being able to like lay these pieces down and figure out the timeline, the clue trail, as we call it, in the room when we're breaking it and giving each piece. And it's exciting because it feels like, you know, we're hoping this piece that it lands and people, okay, put this piece together. And sometimes you guys are ahead of even where we thought you'd be, and that's also exciting. So, you know, it's just a fun journey that we got to lay out, and now we kind of get to take with you guys as everyone's watching it.
Have there been any pieces dropped that Hearties have completely missed that you can think of?
You know what's so crazy? I'm trying to keep track of everything people are saying.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff I'm like, wow, that was early. You know, I'll say there's some stuff that people were catching that maybe seems out there. And I was like, you guys know this show.
I love that. Good job.
It's funny.
Hearties. Good job.
It's so funny that you say it like that, because you know, like when promo photos come out, when promo videos come out, Hearties go through and dissect every single thing. And so to me, you guys writing this, zooming, cropping, you know, all of it. And like, she wore this blouse in this promo pic, and this is what, you know, I mean, it's amazing. So I love that you're like,
it's a separate day. It's not the same.
it's like you guys get the Hearties, and that's almost like Hearties' love language. Like, let's give them something to sleuth out, you know? That's just so good. Yeah.
I think it's Lindsay who kind of describes it as like a baton. So it's like we put it, and then the Hearties grab it and take it to run to the finish line. So it's like we're all in this together. Like, we kind of brought this to one side. You guys grabbed the baton, so but you had to take it from us. So you grabbed it and then took running. So it's like we're seeing the race being won at this time, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. And all these months later for you guys writing it so long ago, it has to be a lot of fun. Well, we did want to talk about the Lucas and Rosemary situation. Lucas kind of put her in a really tough spot, and and Lee as well, a little bit. That all got awkward between all three of them, and not just awkward, but there was a lot of anger there. So that happened once before. It did kind of remind us of back with Rosemary and Elizabeth, and really very similar situation with thinking that Rosemary felt, as a journalist, the town has a right to know, which makes a lot of sense. But then Lucas had confided, and so just talk to us about that friction, and how do you balance that when they're all such beloved characters? So you know, it's not like somebody's gonna side with one or the other. How do you balance that?
Well, it's interesting because with the levels of friction and just kind of making some layers, that we want everybody, and that's the interesting thing about this show. Everybody's right in a way. You know, they're all right. They all have their reasons. They're all right. They all have a point of view that makes sense. It's just they're all kind of conflicting because no one has all the pieces to what's going on right now. So they're all just doing their best, and right now they're not aligned, which is not something we see all the time, because usually the show and the friendships on the show are such a strong unit. So it's just kind of seeing all these people have all these pieces, but no one has the full picture. So they're doing what they can with what they have, and how do you say who's right? You know, you don't. So we're kind of layering it, just reminding ourselves when we're writing that everybody's right in their own way, and everybody's kind of wrong in their own way.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so we're coming at the scenes like that because even sort of like our audience and our characters don't have all the pieces yet. So this is the time when they're allowed to make those mistakes, because that's what they would do. That's what makes them human and full characters, realistic characters.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of those scenes that was hard to watch, to see Lucas get that angry, and but as we were talking about him earlier, it's a very much like you said, his love for Hope Valley is sort of one thing in his life that he can sort of control, and he knows to be true, where he's had so much over the past, last season, things that were out of his control. So yeah, it's understandable. It was interesting to see. Yeah. Yeah. And Hearties were sort of, really, from what I saw, I don't know if the rest of you saw it online, but we're sort of like, I'm with Lucas here, or I'm with Rosie here.
It was divided, but it's interesting because Hope Valley is kind of divided too. I mean,
very
talk
true
about that, but there's some friction with the locals, but and I think we saw it in Twitter and all the responses that we had last night.
Did Chris's performance surprise you, or was that sort of how you pictured it when you wrote it, as far as being her?
I feel, we talked a little bit about Jaeda and Kevin and Andrea, but I mean, I also think that Chris deserves props for this episode too, and the next couple episodes coming as well. We get to see a lot of layers with Lucas throughout the season. Chris is playing it with all of those layers in mind. Like, you can see it in the scenes that he's been through a lot, and he's processing this. And I mean, we're thinking about all this when we're writing Lucas, but seeing it played out, you just feel it even more. You're like, this is so real. This is so human and raw that you really feel for him. And I definitely found that watching this episode, that I really felt for Lucas, the character.
Yeah. And he said this season in other interviews about how he's enjoyed the challenges that this season has brought for him. And I'm sure that was something new for him as an actor to tackle. So very cool.
But he's killing it, knocking it right out of the park.
He is. He really is. Yeah. So in that scene, we did have, it was interesting about Lee. When Rosemary was struggling to determine the right thing, he's the supportive. We love the moment when he's like, I'll make the coffee, when she decided when she was like, this is the right thing to do, we need to let the town know. And him kind of having to defend her to Lucas. Lucas is his friend, but that's his wife. And you could tell there was like this uneasy tension there. Can you talk a little bit about Lee this season, having to sort of balance this mayoral role where he's, especially with this huge project, and there's really been a lot of like conflict of interest moments of the whole season that he's had to deal with, as well as, he's still Rosie's man and he's going to have her back. That balance with Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what makes Lee so great, like, to be the mayor, is that he just balances the weight of his responsibility so effortlessly. And that's going to be really important in, the episodes coming up. But I think it's interesting comparing him to Lucas, because, Lee has had this stability. He has the safety. He knows he can count on Hope Valley, whereas Lucas, as a leader, kind of can't rely on that. He was governor for one day and was shot, and then he thought it was solved, but now there's questions. And so, every step of the way, there's a turn for Lucas. So he doesn't have this sort of steady ground to stand on like we see with Lee, because Lee has Hope Valley to back him up, whereas Lucas has the whole territory, and there's a lot in the territory that's kind of unstable. So it's interesting sort of to see the two politicians, and both of them are great. It's just, again, just what is their background? What are they standing on? What's their platform? What are they dealing with? So there's just a lot of really fun dynamics.
And adding that layer of this friendship between Lee and Lucas, that is really not it. We haven't had a ton of the two of them, but it deepened over the last year. But it's not a 10-year friendship. So balancing, that is where he has to pick a side, kind of in that moment, is really tough. But so we do have another Hearty question. Rebecca Aaron, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, says Chris McNally was just fantastic in that scene, which we covered. The intensity of his anger came at Rosemary full force. Henry later apologized to Rosemary, saying Lucas is a little worked up. Rosemary, meanwhile, seemed to take it very hard after that the article had exposed Montague to the assault. Talk to us about these complex dynamics. That was interesting to see Rosie, the weight of that hit her.
But I think it's like some of the first time we've seen since the Valley Voice, since they opened the Valley Voice, is that like a real time sort of ramification for an article that Rosemary sees up front. So her feelings around the article, they're only going to build even in the coming week's episode as well. So we'll see a bit more on her kind of expressing how she feels. That was just a touch of that emotion, but we get to see her really process what that means and that responsibility coming into the next episode. And I think just like for the complexity, it's they're a dream to write, because it's everybody on the show all the characters are really passionate, but it's forces of good. They're just different forces and different ways about trying to do good. And so they're all doing it in their own way. And that's a really interesting dynamic. And for us, it's a dream to write, because you're rooting for everyone. We're rooting for
Yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
And it almost feels sometimes, when I was describing it, I was like, it's almost like Scooby-Doo when they all split up and you're like, don't split up. You're going to solve the case together. Come back together. So that's kind of where we're at. We're in Scooby-Doo when all the gang, the mystery gang, is split up, and we're like, no, come together to fight the forces of evil.
I love that. Love it.
But sometimes they have to go off on their own to figure out what they need to figure out. So when they come together, they're, unbreakable.
And Pascal always plays that so beautifully because I love those moments for her because her character is such a larger than life personality. So when you see
Yeah.
her almost start to like
Yeah.
shut down and she
Yeah.
gets quiet and she, it's really
Grounded. When
yeah,
Rosemary's
it's so
grounded, we get this.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I like the tempered Rosemary sometimes, but I do like the other, but this
We like all
I
sides
think
of
the
it.
two sides are what make each one so enjoyable, is that
Yeah,
when you know grand Rosemary and you see grounded Rosemary, you really appreciate either side, So when you're used to grand and then you see grounded, you're like,
yeah.
wow, this is like so raw. And then when you've seen her and she just you feel for her, and then she gets back to grand Rosemary, you're like, oh, she's back. It's like you can breathe a relief. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. So in the midst of all of these complexities in relationships, we saw Sunday that Allie is emerging as a young adult. She's searching for her identity. And it almost feels like, because we saw Angela and Cooper uncovering their uncle's existence, that might have spurred on Allie's need to know about her father. So what did the writers want, or why did the writers want all of these teens taking matters into their own hands this season?
So, I think we're seeing it even with our cast each year. The fact is our younger characters are growing up. We're seeing them just mature. And now that they are growing, we can start to see them handle these like beautifully dramatic stories. And it's, I think it's great that you picked up on Angela and Cooper sort of inspiring Allie, because that's totally true. It's like Allie sort of saw Angela and Cooper do it. She's like, I know I can do it because I've just helped my friends. I've just seen them do it. I know I'm old enough now that I can do it too. So they're kind of empowering each other. We're seeing the younger people in Hope Valley who've been empowered by all these amazing adults in their life actually start to empower each other as well. Because they're growing up into these little, I can't even say little, they're just these young adults that are handling these emotions so beautifully.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's reflected both on screen and off screen. So it's cool to see.
Totally.
And I liked too how Elizabeth was involved in that storyline, and how she is talking with Allie about the struggle of parents to know when to let a child fly, even if they might fall. That line really stood out to me last night. But how much of Nathan's struggle here with Dylan is that Nathan is a Mountie who knows and distrusts criminals, versus how much is he just trying to find his sea legs with having a teenager who can make her own decisions?
Yeah, I think it all sort of plays in, because I feel like the main concern for Nathan is that he doesn't want Allie to get hurt. That's what's the underlying issue for him. But because of his career with the Mounties, he knows all of Dylan's past. He's able to know everything. But even without that, he knows how Dylan treated Allie, in the past and up until this point. And up prior to this, he's kind of been able to shield her from all of that. So he's just trying to figure out, how do I let her grow but keep her safe? How do I protect her from the hurt I know is going to come when she finds out the full truth? And it's like he's almost predicting the heartbreak, and he's like, I can feel the heartbreak for Allie already, and I don't want to go there. I don't want to put her through it. So I think, he's kind of, all of his background is kind of coming into play, that he's like, how do I stop this? And he's realizing, I don't know if I can. So yeah.
Well,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
Well, every parent's challenge, right? Like, how much do you let your kids? Because if they, experience the hurt and the struggle, they're going to learn from it. So you got to let them make mistakes along the way. But wanting to protect, balancing those as parents is tough.
For sure. And they have such a deep connection. A Heartie, Angie Durden of San Bruno, California, pointed out that she's amazed by your writing skills, as are we all in these episodes. And she wonders if it was hard for you to have scenes in which our beloved characters like Nathan and Allie were raising their voices at each other. I mean, we all caught that when Allie called Nathan Uncle Nathan, and that was definitely a crushing moment. It hit hard.
Right through the
I mean,
heart of the Hearties.
yes, I mean it is hard, but I also think it's kind of an incredible gift. Because we know these characters, like they're like our very best friends at this point. Like the way, especially when we're in the room and we're kind of breaking these stories, we're just thinking with them all the time. So it's about pushing them, but only so that they can grow, or so their relationships can deepen, or so that they can discover something new. So since we get to kind of, we're pushing them along on this journey, that's the blessing, even when it's hard. But yeah, the moments are hard. Like Uncle Nathan was really tough. Like,
Yeah.
I think it might have been Beth, Elizabeth Stewart, who first said it, who said, what if she says, what she calls him Uncle Nathan? And when she said it in the room, we gasped, like everybody gasped. And I knew it. I was like, that has to go in the script, because we all reacted that way. They were like, oh, like you just feel it. And, you kind of sit there, that even Elizabeth says it, that she's, I'm sure she didn't mean to hurt you. And Nathan says, no, she was making a point. Like it was pointed and she knew it. And Nathan sort of sitting with, what is this? This is a different dynamic than we've had before. But he also knows she's processing because she's hurting. So he's like, maybe I'll take that hurt. I'd rather her be mad at me than be mad at life and be mad at things she can't change. So yeah, all of the dynamics are just heart-wrenching but beautiful. And as a writer, that's just, yeah, it's a gift and a blessing to write those kind of scenes, because it makes you feel. It's a blessing.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love to.
I was going to gut punch for Nathan. I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine? And those are the things, like you have a full on friendship, whatever, and then all of a sudden someone tells you your name. Like that was not a conversation. We never even talked about it. And all of a sudden it says, you're addressing as my name. I'm like, that's weird, just like Nathan would have that. What's going on?
What did
Well,
she just say?
Kevin's face in that too, like when I watched the dailies, like we felt it when we wrote it, in the scene. We felt it. It was there when we talked about it, and then reading it, and then writing it. And but then actually watching the scene, it felt even just tenfold of those feelings, because you can see it. You can see it on Jaeda, and you can see it on Kevin in those characters as well. It's just, yeah.
I hope we get
Wow.
to talk with, I know Jada's scheduled, but I hope we get to talk with Kevin too, because I'd love to hear their thoughts on working. Like, I mean, she had to blow him away in those scenes. And to be honest, I feel like Kevin really, it was kind of a new layer of his acting that I was like, I
Totally.
was blown away. Like, and I'm sure there's going to be even more next week. Like,
Yes,
because this story
that's
is
what I
far
was
from
gonna say.
over. Yeah.
Next week's episode, I'm like, again, if you thought this episode was emotional, next week's episode is like I sobbed watching that episode.
Wow.
That's coming. So
well, and
yeah.
if we felt it, like I really would love to hear how it felt to the actors in that moment. Like, in that moment, was it as heart-wrenching to us, to them, as it was to us? Like, what? It really be interesting.
So interesting. Well, we are now in a spot. We only have 3 episodes, deep for this season. So that we're dealing with, and we talked about it before, that there's, we have the grand vision for Lucas, and then Hickam doesn't want to get a room for Montague, and Ned did not spare his words as they got the article from Rosemary, or for the Valley Voice. So the mayor and the editor of the Valley Voice have called out this backroom deal. Are you, in a writer's room, are you really sowing a discord in the Hope Valley world?
We're treating these episodes, we were calling them the pressure cooker. It feels like it's just building. So, we're really getting to see it come to head, especially in the coming episodes. We have 3 episodes. So sort of this mid-time, these, episodes right after the mid-season, we call these the pressure cookers, because things are just building. People are piecing things together, but they don't have everything, and everyone's kind of on edge. And that's sort of where we're at. We're just in the pressure cooker.
Interesting. Yeah.
And the
Well, and
viewers
because
are on edge.
yeah, the idea of like Lucas is the one that wanted to be, hush hush, and then and knowing now, it was revealed that Henry was not in the deal, like in the whole thing, like he didn't know what's going on, and it was it's just really interesting about how that dynamic with those guys, how they kind of played it out. But should we be holding out for Lucas tricking the bad guy at this point?
Hmm.
So I think it's important to remember we still haven't, we have yet to see all that Lucas remembers or will remember about everything that's happened to him. So I think as the pieces come together for Lucas, we see his plans start to change, and we see, we're seeing him kind of in real time start to figure things out. And I feel like that's, it's a different side to Lucas, but we do see him making some really interesting decisions as this happens. So, especially next week's episode and the episode after. So 10 and 11 particularly. Yeah.
Already. I don't know if we're prepared or not. We need to be. Well, now we have some sneak peeks and things like that, and it sounds like, or we see that Nathan and Elizabeth are going to be drawn together throughout the episode. So first of all, it's that stuck window in the schoolhouse, and then there are a moment of worry with Allie, between Elizabeth and Nathan. So if we are in Vegas and we have some chips to lie down, is a smooch is gonna be like maybe lucky episode 10, 11, or 12.
She's gonna say
I
yes.
can't say that. I can't say that. But I'd like to hear your bet. I'd like to hear your bets where you guys think it's gonna land. I'd be curious.
Emily, I'll let you go first.
Who? Emily? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're gonna have to wait until episode 12. Slow burn.
At the end of the season. Oh
Well,
dear.
they do keep saying slow burn to us.
I was
Very
gonna
much.
say,
In the grand scheme of When Calls the Heart, my money would probably be on the finale as well, because that's happened in several situations.
right.
This
is what we're used to.
I think Hearties are just hoping it's not like the last 5 seconds of the finale, and then I think they're hoping for earlier. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
well, I'll just do something different. I'm gonna say 11, just to buck the
Mix it up.
the convention of mindset for the Hearties. We'll see what we do. But
We'll see who wins.
yeah, exactly.
Place your bet.
No.
Well, that window sneak peek, I don't know if you saw it, Allie. Did you see it? It definitely,
I did see it, yeah.
definitely got the Hearties' attentions. But I think every Heartie is like, oh, we know the score. So something's gonna happen.
Just go. Yeah.
In the classic
always,
Hallmark kiss interrupt tradition.
We call it romantic interruptus. Is what we
Yes,
call it
exactly.
when we're writing. This scene becomes romantic interruptus.
Which is the Latin name for that.
Yeah.
Oh, too funny.
Oh, that's perfect. We're ready to do the Heartieship. So you are familiar. So you have the options of hit, miss, or classified, and this is for season 11. So it's not like we're gonna do anything for predictions of 20 or season 12, but.
And I don't envy Allie, because we only have
well, there's
3
only
episodes
3
left. So
I know. I'm feeling a lot of classifieds coming up.
we're feeling it too. I'm not sure we're gonna get much
say, well, we don't have a lot of hope for that, but we'll enjoy it. All right, so you ready to play Heartieship?
I guess so.
That was not very confident.
Yeah, no confidence at all.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna look at it right now, and then okay, I'm gonna predict if you're gonna do classified or not. Faith will add to her credentials studying dentistry to stay on top of Lily's sweet tooth.
Miss for this season. I mean, who knows what season 12 will hold for her. We're not talking season 12, but this is a miss for this season.
All right.
Back in the day, there was a dentist office on Main Street. I don't know if it's
It
still there or
was,
not, but
yes.
yeah.
There
All
was,
right.
yeah, it says family dentistry.
Yeah. Is it still there?
It's still there, you know.
Yeah.
If anyone's been to Hearties family reunion or Hope Valley days, it's Lucas's office inside,
Yeah.
actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good fun. All right. Dylan Parks will show remorse in his meeting with Allie.
Classified, but you'll know soon. You'll know that answer very soon.
All right.
All right. Montague's attacker will be tied to Jeanette.
Classified. I can't give you any clues about who or why. We're too close. You guys have so much information. It's just classified.
I meant to say before we move on, that attack scene, first of all, was shot really cool, and it
Oh,
came
yeah.
out of nowhere and surprised everyone. And then didn't they go right to commercial? It was
Yes, they did.
Genius. Yeah, genius. So
They
good.
did. My dad was watching live and goes, "Did he die?" And I was like, "No, Dad, no."
All I saw was a bunch of Hardy tweets, like all caps. Who was that? What just happened? What was that? It was really cool. how it was shot.
Yeah, it even got my dad, and my dad's not usually surprised. So I heard my dad gasp because he was watching live on FaceTime with me.
Oh,
And
Amazing.
I know he always watches, and he gasped, and I was like, "Okay, wow, I got it."
Love it.
I love that.
So good.
Yeah.
So Flo will learn about Allie's shenanigans at the switchboard, and Allie will have to make it up to her somehow.
Miss, but only for time. We did want a scene like that, but there's so much coming up that we had to cut it for time.
Okay.
So kind of a hit, but the intention was there.
All right.
All right. Lee will have a heart-to-heart with Lucas and get on the same team.
Classified. How everyone gets on the same page is classified, but I mean, this is Hope Valley,
Interesting.
so I'll
So
say
there
that.
is going to be them all piling into the Scooby-Doo van.
The
moment.
Scooby gang
Sounds
getting back together.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Pal the Pony is just the ticket to increase the manure production that Henry needs for his hazelnut trees.
That could be an inadvertent hit, but also, but I'll say miss for now. But like, we'll circle back to that.
Yes. Oh, interesting. There's more to that story, apparently.
That's interesting.
It is
Oh
interesting.
my gosh. Okay. Jeanette will not, in the end, be the only one left who is interested in funding the resort.
That was kind of a hit and a miss. So hit-ish.
Hit-ish.
I love it. Ish.
You grazed.
We grazed.
You're a good egg, Allie. I mean, dealing with all of our stuff. That's the end of that whole thing. But you know what a pleasure to talk to you again. I mean, this has been. We always talked about it's a roller coaster. We were talking about that 2 or 3 weeks ago, but yeah, we're on the ride for sure. So, but thank you so much for helping us to kind of dissect all the things that are going in and out of Hope Valley, because there's a lot of visitors that we don't know. We don't understand who those people are. So, but thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for watching and for having me. And, you know, I'm sorry I couldn't give you more, but I'm so excited.
Good.
You know, even this chat, I'm so excited just for you guys to see the next 3 episodes and the rest of the season. It's just, yeah, it was so fun to do. And it's just so fun living it again now as well.
I love it. Thank you again. And then Emily, thank you so much for joining us. This has been
so much fun. Thank you.
I love that. So Hearties, you know, tune in tomorrow. Tune in on Sunday, 9/8 Central at Hallmark Channel, When Calls the Heart, and hashtag Hearties. Make sure, like last week, we trended in the United States. I don't know. I don't remember. Did you see anything with Canada?
We got some Canada. Yeah, we got some Canada trending.
Okay, yeah, because I think
You
the
know,
highest
even
one
Allie was
was
trending, which was not because of me,
Ah,
but
there you
because of our
go.
amazing Allie on our show.
I love it. Well, I think I saw 10. I don't know if there
Mhm.
was more than 10 that for trending for the US. So, but it's always helpful to, get the show. And if we trend it, it's something for us to understand that it's helping the show for sure.
Single
So,
digits this week, Hearties. Single digits. That's our goal.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So also for Heart to Hearties, tune in on this particular channel, the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you have not done it right now, and be with us in our another episode. We have some cast, we have some more writers and things like that we are having scheduled. So tune in, and if you subscribe, then you can get a reminder, get a notification. All is good. So thank you so much for your time, and this is Heart to Hearties.